Hello everyone. Today we're going to be creating a football using BlocksCAD. Now I know some of you may have never used BlocksCAD before. You haven't been in a class that we've done this in. So first thing you need to do is go to blockscad3d.com. Put that up here in the URL bar. Press enter. This is the page you'll get to. Now you've got to log in, so you click the login. Right here underneath it says sign in with Google. That's what you're going to do. You don't need to put anything down here. You need to sign in with Google. Choose your school email account. You may have to put in information if you're not already signed into your school email account on your device. But if you use your school email information, you should already have an account on here. Now, I think it will take you directly to a project, but if not, you can either go over here and go to My Projects, or right here, Project, and then do a new project, click New. So let's get started. I'm going to title this Football, for obvious reasons. Now, first thing you need to realize is over here you've got all the different types of blocks. So if you click 3D shapes, it brings up the different types of blocks you can use. 2D shapes, transforms, set ops, math, logic, loops, text, variables, modules, and then experimental. I know a lot of you are already familiar with this because you've already done it. It would only be if you are in one of my STEAM classes that you have not done this before. But you still should be able to follow along and do what we're doing. Now, the 3D shapes are the actual shapes we're going to be using, and we are going to be using all four of these shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a sphere, a cube, a cylinder, and a torus. I'll take that back. I'm going to get rid of these so we can look at what we're doing here. A sphere, it's just your basic sphere. Let's delete that. Let's bring in a cube. There's your basic cube. There's a cylinder. And then your torus, because I know a lot of you are like, what's a torus? That's kind of a donut shape. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the others. In fact, I'm going to add in all the different shapes that we're going to need first, because these are kind of our basis for everything. So we are going to need 3 toruses. So now we have 3 toruses. We only need 1 sphere. We need 1 cylinder, which we already have. And we need 2 cubes. So now we've got 2 cubes. So first things first, we're going to make the basic shape of the football. So I'm going to bring my sphere down. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do a transform and put a number of sides on it. Which the number of sides, well, you can watch this. Except we got everything else all in here at once. But anyway, the number of sides basically means it makes it smoother. So the more sides, the smoother it gets. I'm going to go for 50 sides. You can see down here on the bottom, it's now much smoother because that's the sphere sticking out from where everything else is at the moment, because everything's just kind of jumbled together right now. So next, I'm going to take one of these toruses, and I'm going to change some of the values on it. Radius 1 will be 9.95. Radius 2 will be 0.1. Sides, 50. And we leave the faces alone. So what this does, by the way, if you need to know more information about any of these cubes, you can just hover your mouse over it for a second, and it will bring up information. So radius 1 is the distance from the center of the donut to the center of one of the outside edges, and radius 2 is the center, basically the distance from the center of one of the outside edges to the actual edge. And side is just like with the sphere, it makes it smoother. Okay, so we're going to bring our other torus down, and we're going to make it the exact same information, or exact same parameters, 9.95, 0.1, or 1/10, and 50 and 16. So in case you didn't realize what we're doing, we're actually coding using, we're using computer code to create 3D objects. So now I'm going to go up here to transforms, and we're going to use a rotate. Now when we say rotate, that means we are rotating the object. Now I'm doing it right here on my screen. I'm making that happen. But when you want to rotate this, if we wanted this to be in a certain direction and we didn't want everything to rotate at once, we would just rotate these individual objects. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to rotate one of these toruses by 90 degrees. Now we're going to use what we call set ops, or the difference block. When you say difference, we're usually talking about subtraction, aren't we? So right now we're going to put the sphere right here. We're going to take one of these toruses and we're going to put it right here. See, notice it says minus here. So basically you are subtracting one shape from another shape. Just like in math, except instead of numbers, we're subtracting shapes from other shapes. And I can add another thing. So basically this is this sphere minus this torus minus this torus. I'm going to go ahead and render that. And we're just going to look at it. It'll take it a second. You can't really see a lot of what it did, but notice this really thin line right here. There's another one here. Of course, we've got all these. If I disable these, by the way, if you right click, or if you're on a Chromebook, alt click, you can disable blocks so that they're still there, but the computer doesn't actually do that code. And it will really help you a lot if you do something very complex. But this is what we just did. We took the sphere and we subtracted this really thin little torus, or really thin donut that I made, minus this really thin donut that I made. See, if I take one of these out and we render it again, you can actually, now you can see it sticking out from it just a little bit. It's really thin. Think about this. The second radius was 1/10. Okay. So I'm going to put that back in there and render it again. Now we're going to start using some somewhat more complicated stuff. So transforms, I'm going to grab a taper. I'm going to change this value to 0.5, and we're going to see what this does. Now, you see what happened here. It tapered it, or it made it thinner along one side. So that's still not a football shape, really, is it? We need it to be on both sides. So what I've got to do is I've got to put another rotate on here. This time we're going to rotate it around the z-axis by 180 degrees. The z-axis is up and down right here. So we're basically taking this and putting that on the other side. So this end would be where the dotted lines are. See? But we still haven't tapered it on this side. So we're going to take another taper and exact same thing along the x-axis by 5/10. Okay? And what this is going to do, because the computer reads this in order, okay, it renders this all in order. So you did all this first, did everything down here first, then it tapered it on this side, then it rotated it, and now it's going to taper it again, going in the other direction. So let's render that. Now we've got our basic football shape. And to top it off, we're going to go ahead and change the color to brown so that it actually starts looking like a football. So there's the basic football with these small seams in it. Now keep in mind, this is not going to be extremely detailed, but detailed enough. So let's go ahead and enable the rest of these blocks. Take that back. We're just going to enable one for right now. Oops. We're going to take this cube and we're going to change the X value to 8. That means it'll be 8 blocks long along the X axis, which is the red one, but the green is the Y axis. It will be 7/10 along the Y axis and 4 along the Z axis. That's up and down. I'm going to disable this because we don't need it for right now. So there's that. Oh, we did forget something. We have to center it. You'll see the difference in just a second when I render it again. And I'll see it's centered right there where all of those meet. I'm going to take a translate. Translate means it moves it up, down, left, right, whichever way you want it to go. We want it to go up by 10. So up would be positive on the Z-axis, so positive 10. It's moved up now. Now we're going to take this torus. We're going to enable that. We're going to change the radius 1 on this to a 9.8. Radius 2 we're going to leave alone. We're going to give it 50 sides because we want everything to look nice and smooth. Well, there it is. But we want to rotate it. We want this end to be up here, or this end, whichever way it is. But to do that, we need to rotate it around the x-axis. It needs to rotate this way. So we're going to rotate that about 90 degrees. And now it's perfectly straight up and down. Now for this part, we want to use set ops again, and we're going to subtract again. So we're going to subtract this cube from this torus. Oh, sorry. We're actually not using the difference block. I told you wrong. We're going to use the intersection. So what intersection does is it returns whatever is, like where both of these meet, that's the only part that will be left. See? So where that cube was and where the torus was, that is the only portion that is left when you intersect something. Think of it like a Venn diagram, if you know what that is. 2 circles or 3 circles. It's the portion where they all meet together, and that's the only thing it shows when you use intersection. Okay, so we're going to put this aside right now and disable it. Actually, let's look at what that looks like at the moment. Well, it's still not going to look right, so we're going to go ahead and disable that again. I'm going to bring in this cube up here. We're going to enable that. We are going to make that 8. The Y value is 1.5. And the Z value will be 4. We are going to put a translate on that, which means we want it to be moved, and we want it to move up 10 again. Oh, again, we need to center that. That's very important. If you don't center it, it's going to be completely wrong. So there's our cube. We just created a cube, and now this part would actually, if it was enabled, would be inside that, so you couldn't actually see it at the moment. Let's go ahead and bring our cylinder down. Enable it. Radius 1, we're going to make that 1 3/10. Radius 2, when you do a cylinder, these automatically, radius 1 and radius 2 automatically are matched unless you unlock it. But for this, we don't need to unlock it. Oops. So our height on this is going to be 4/10. And again, for this, we want to center it. When you create a cylinder, it only has a certain number of sides. So again, if you want it to be smooth, you have to bring in the sides down here, and we're going to make this 30. Now we want this to be rotated because these are actually going to be the stitches. Right here, this was the white stripes that go down where the stitches are on the football. This, what we're doing right here, these are actually going to be the stitches themselves, the big white stitches. So we see what that looks like. We're going to do a transform. We're going to rotate it. We want to rotate along the y-axis by 90 degrees so that it's turned upright. It's like standing straight up and long ways this way. So we do that. There it is. Now we want to translate it. This one, we're going to want to go up by 9 5/10. Now keep in mind, yes, I already created this earlier, and yes, I played with all these numbers to get them exactly where they need to be. If you're going to create something on your own, there'll be a lot of just changing some of these numbers, but you do have to understand, what you're changing. The z-axis, if you're changing the z, you're going up and down. If you're changing y, you're going either forward or backwards on the green lines. If you're doing the x-axis, you're going this way, or this way on the red line. The dotted line is negative numbers. So if I change this to negative 9.5, see, it goes down, but we don't want that. We want it to go up. So there it is, stuck right there. Of course, obviously this looks nothing like what we want it to look like at the end yet, because we're not done yet. We're going to bring in yet another rotate. Remember what I said, this does this in order. So it rotated this way, then it translated it. Now we're going to rotate it again. Now something really weird happens when you do a translate and move it away and then a rotate. It'll actually go in like a circle. It's not quite the same. So we're going to need a loop now. We're going to put this in a loop. Count with I from 1 to 10 by 1. And let's go ahead and put a variable in. We need to grab this I. What I did, I clicked variables, I grabbed the I. We're going to put it on the Y value. So basically, this creates a variable, which is kind of a placeholder when we're talking about coding. It's a number that can change. Okay? So whatever this is, this is gonna do a countdown. And once that count gets to 10, it will stop. But what we're saying is from 1 to 10 by 1. So this goes through at one time. The first time, this value would be 1. Okay, I would be 1. And then it would add 1 to it. So next time it's 2. So then it's 2. And the next time it's 3. All the way to 10. But you can change all this. If I want this to go in a circle, we need to do it by the degrees of a full circle. There are 360 degrees, correct? So I'm going to change this to 0 because I want it to start at 0. And I'm going to change this to 360 for the number of degrees all the way around. Okay? And I'm going to have it do this by 5. So let's watch what happens. It created a full circle of these little cylinders going all the way around. They are spaced out 9.5 from where they were. See, if I change this to 5, they're even tighter together. If I change this to 20, they're spaced out further. But as I said, I've already done this, so I already know they need to be at 9 5/10. So here's what we're going to do again. We're going to do another intersection. Set ops. We're going to intersect these two. So this will only be where all of this and this meets. So let's render that. And there it is. Can you tell? Those are going to be the actual cross stitches on the football. So next what we're going to do is we're going to do a set ops. We're going to union. What this means is you're just joining them together. It's like if difference is subtraction, this is addition. We add that, and we're going to add this to it as well. We're going to go ahead and enable that, and we're going to watch and see what this looks like. There they are. But we're not done yet, because if we enable this, and we do this right now, notice they're too far up. So we've got to translate it. We've got to move them all down. Now that this whole thing is done and we've unioned together, we can move it all down at one time. -4 9/10. As I said, I've already done this. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and put the color block on it. And now let's render this and see what it looks like. And there is your basic football. I'm going to move this to the side and open it up, make that a little bit bigger so that you can see this code. You can pause your screen here and look at it. Now that you've got this, you can add anything else you want to. Like if you want to add a Nike swoosh to it, but that is something that you'll have to learn to do on your own right now. Okay, but this is your basic football shape. Hope that was fun. Hope that was informative, and that you learned something. All right.